Atheism doesn't have holidays. If it did, the closest thing it would have would be New Year's celebration. And the closest thing atheists would have to a prayer is a New Year's resolution. My New Year's resolution is to double down on the Daniel Natal Show. Hindsight, they say, is 2020, and looking back over 2020, one would be struck by how it was one of the weirdest years to date. Everything was upside down and topsy-turvy. I mean, look at the difference between Times Square on New Year's Day and Wuhan, China. Despite being the alleged epicenter of COVID-19, they look more like America than America does, and America looks like China. America is in many ways behaving like China, with its censored internet, face masks, and medical martial law. How did America's leaders allow this to happen? It may be suggestive that in China, 2020 was the year of the rat. We had fake protests in 2020, fake toilet paper shortages, fake elections, and a fake assurance 9 months ago that we'd only have to wear masks for 2 weeks. Everyone is acting like this bizarro state of affairs is completely normal. The question is, how? The answer, of course, brings us to the persistent theme of 2020, propaganda. Without propaganda, it would have been impossible to do all the things they did last year. Walter Lippmann wrote in 1926, without some form of censorship, propaganda in the strict sense of the word is impossible. In order to conduct propaganda, there must be some barrier between the public and the event. Access to the real environment must be limited before anyone can create a pseudo-environment that he thinks wise or desirable. Let's concentrate on that line. There must be some barrier between the public and the event. This is why back in 2016, CNN was telling you not to read the Podesta emails yourself. They wanted you to use them as a filter, separating the public from the event.
Also interesting is, remember, it's illegal to possess these stolen documents. It's different for the media. So everything you learn about this, you're learning from us.
Likewise in 2020, the pseudo-environment they were creating was the narrative of the hospitals filled beyond capacity. It terrified them when citizen journalists went in with cell phone cameras and documented just how empty the hospitals actually were. As you can see here, there was quite a disparity between what the media was telling you about hospital bed shortages and the reality on the ground, which was lots and lots of empty hospitals. They were so empty, in fact, that medical staff had time to choreograph dance routines.
Big, big booty, what you got a big booty. Big, big booty, what you got a big booty. Big, big booty, what you got a big booty. Big, big booty, what you got a big booty.
Think they had time to do dance numbers when the Black Plague hit Europe in the 14th century? Just as Lippmann said, without some form of censorship, propaganda in the strict sense of the word is impossible, which is why YouTube raced to delete all the videos by citizen journalists. Normal people were destroying with their cameras the pseudo-environment the media was trying to create. Social media in many ways has become like virtual reality goggles. The consumer of social media narratives is like someone who thinks he's on a beach in Bermuda when in reality he's negotiating a cramped staircase in a building. If he doesn't watch his step, he risks falling and breaking his neck. For a republic to exist, we require an informed electorate. If everyone is wearing virtual reality goggles that show the pseudo-environment, then that'll lead to catastrophe. Unfortunately, so many people cling to the goggles. Like a short-sighted person, they wake up in the morning and lunge for their goggles like someone with myopia lurching to get their eyeglasses. The problem with the goggles is that what you see in the goggles doesn't match reality, which is why leftist radicals act like a cornered animal fighting neo-Nazis to the death, when in the real environment, they're actually beating up patriotic American citizens. It's like that case about the sleepwalking man who murdered his wife because in the pseudo-environment of his dream, he thought she was a burglar. Instead, she was his loving spouse. Such people are inherently dangerous because they fulfill a certain requirement of insanity. They react not according to the real environment, but to a delusion that exists only in their minds. In point of fact, the people with the virtual reality goggles on behave much like individuals with dementia. They don't really have a strong grasp of the past. Because of constant gaslighting, the past changes for them every few weeks or so, with the new narrative utterly erasing the old narrative with no one remembering that a change was made at all. Like this clip of Stephen Colbert gaslighting the audience. The official narrative was originally that James Comey was bad for costing Hillary Clinton the election, but once the narrative shifted and Comey was supposed to be good, Colbert had to retrain the audience to be on Comey's side. Watch here.
Huge story that broke just minutes ago, like less than 10 minutes ago. FBI Director James Comey has just been fired by Donald Trump. Wow. Huge Donald Trump fans here tonight.
The modern victim of propaganda has a very loose grasp of the past, no knowledge of history, and no conception of future consequences. They live in a sort of eternal now. But even their now is disconnected from reality. It's a screen reality. Like those nursing homes in Europe where they try to hide the fact from patients that they're in a care facility at all by disguising the hospital. In many ways, modern people are in a free-range totalitarian state with paint on the wall suggesting that they're still in a republic. The inmates look to their media personalities as nursing home staff doling out their meds, guiding their uncertain steps as they walk them through their fake landscapes and the new slides of their Viewmaster reality. French social scientist Gustave Le Bon said in the 19th century, "The masses have never thirsted after truth. Whoever can supply them with illusions is easily their master. Whoever attempts to destroy their illusions is always their victim." A British journalist recently found this out when she correctly stated that COVID affected the old and that, statistically speaking, the virus posed no threat to the young and healthy. She was roundly attacked because her very real and quantifiable stats ran afoul of the virtual reality goggles that people were wearing. Inside the goggles, the Black Death was happening. Outside the goggles, however, nothing very special was occurring. A virus with an alleged death rate that was smaller than the common cold or the seasonal flu, but hyped by the media as the end of the world. And it was by this means that we were enslaved, that Times Square was empty. A man-made apocalypse that took place solely in the imagination, and experienced only by those with the virtual reality goggles firmly ensconced on their faces, as they dutifully took the pills doled out to them by their care facility handlers. The elites stink. They hate it when we push their buttons. Help us to push their buttons by pushing our buttons, the like and subscribe buttons. Also, don't forget about thenewamerican.com. Think of the magazine less as a newspaper than as a newspaper. You know, like the Greek nous, knowledge. Note to self, multilingual Greek puns don't work.